In East Asia, the relationship between Japan, Taiwan, and China forms a high-stakes triangle, one that is not only shaping the region's future, but also influencing the global balance of power. These three neighbors, each with their own history, ambitions, and vulnerabilities, are at the heart of a geopolitical drama that could define the 21st century. Japan stands as a major economic powerhouse and a steadfast U.S. ally. Yet, as China's ambitions grow, Japan faces mounting security risks and a rapidly changing strategic environment. The Japanese government is increasingly aware that its post-war pacifist stance may be tested as never before. With its advanced technology, robust economy, and close ties to the United States, Japan is both a target and a key player in the unfolding regional contest. Taiwan, meanwhile, is a vibrant democracy and a global technology hub. Its people live under the constant shadow of Chinese military threats, yet they continue to innovate and thrive. Taiwan's semiconductor industry is the backbone of the world's electronics, powering everything from smartphones to cars. The island's fate is not just a local issue, it's a global concern, as the world depends on its stability and prosperity. Any disruption in Taiwan would send shockwaves across the globe. Supply chains would be crippled, leading to shortages in critical technologies and consumer goods. Japan, deeply integrated into these supply networks, would see its economic lifelines threatened, with consequences rippling far beyond Asia. The geography is stark. Japan's Yonaguni Island lies just 110 kilometers from Taiwan. This narrow stretch of water means that any conflict or crisis in Taiwan would unfold right on Japan's doorstep, leaving little time to react and few places to hide. The Ryukyu Islands, stretching from Kyushu to Taiwan, form a natural barrier and a strategic front line. Japanese military bases and maritime patrols here are not just symbols, they are the first line of defense in any potential conflict, making Japan's role central and unavoidable in the region's security architecture. This is no longer an abstract policy debate, it's about survival, territory, and the very future of the regional order. Diplomats, military leaders, and ordinary citizens alike are grappling with the reality that the stakes have never been higher. As China's military grows bolder and more assertive, Japan faces difficult choices that could redefine its pacifist identity. Debates rage in parliament and on the streets as the nation weighs its commitment to peace against the need to defend its sovereignty and support its allies. The world is watching closely, aware that decisions made in this corner of East Asia could reshape not only the region, but the global order for generations to come. The story of these three neighbors is one of tension, resilience, and the search for a path forward in uncertain times. Japan's potential involvement in a Taiwan conflict is now a pressing issue, driven by China's rapid military modernization. Beijing's aggressive actions, near-daily air incursions and military drills near Japan, make the threat real and immediate. Japan's vital shipping lanes and territory are at risk if conflict erupts. The U.S. expects more from Japan, as American bases on Japanese soil would be crucial in any defense of Taiwan. Domestically, a new generation of Japanese leaders is more willing to discuss security threats and advocate for a proactive defense. The peaceful status quo can no longer be assumed. China's might, U.S. expectations, and shifting Japanese politics have thrust the Taiwan question into the spotlight. For decades, Japan's leaders spoke with extreme caution about Taiwan, carefully choosing their words to avoid provoking China or upsetting the delicate balance in East Asia. The official line was one of strategic ambiguity, with Japanese politicians rarely mentioning Taiwan directly, and always emphasizing the importance of peace and stability in the region. But that era is rapidly coming to an end, as shifting geopolitics and growing regional tensions force Japan to reconsider its stance. In recent years, Japanese officials have begun to openly link Taiwan's security to Japan's own national interests, breaking with decades of diplomatic silence. This shift reflects not only changing attitudes within Japan, but also responds to China's increasing assertiveness and military activities near Taiwan. The turning point came when former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe boldly declared that a Taiwan emergency is a Japanese emergency. This statement was unprecedented, signaling a dramatic departure from Japan's previous reticence and sending a clear message to both allies and rivals. Building on Abe's legacy, current Prime Minister Takaichi has gone even further. She has suggested that a Chinese attack on Taiwan could trigger Japan's right to collective self-defense under its constitution, a move that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. This is not just political posturing. Invoking the right to collective self-defense is a significant legal threshold for Japan, one that could pave the way for direct military involvement. It signals a new level of seriousness and commitment to regional security. Yet, despite these bold statements, Japanese officials are quick to clarify that any military action would require thorough cabinet review and careful deliberation. The government remains mindful of the risks and complexities involved. Today, Japan's approach is a careful blend of deterrent rhetoric and bureaucratic caution. The government seeks to send a strong signal to Beijing, while also reassuring the Japanese public and international partners that decisions will not be made lightly. In this high-stakes diplomatic game, words have become powerful weapons, shaping perceptions, signaling intentions, and influencing the future of the region. Article 9 of Japan's constitution, written after Hypothetical, renounces war and limits military action to self-defense. For decades, this meant Japan could not aid allies or join overseas conflicts. In 2015, new laws allowed collective self-defense if Japan's survival is threatened, but the definition remains vague. Prime Minister Takaichi's recent remarks suggest a Taiwan crisis could meet this threshold. Still, any decision to intervene would face fierce political and public resistance. The legacy of pacifism and war trauma runs deep. Article 9 is more than law. It's a national identity Japan is reluctant to abandon. Japan's Taiwan policy has long been one of strategic ambiguity, never stating clearly what it would do in a crisis. This mirrors the U.S. approach, deterring China without provoking it or committing Japan to war. Ambiguity keeps options open and complicates Beijing's calculations. It also preserves vital economic ties with China, Japan's top trading partner. But as China's confidence grows, some argue ambiguity is no longer enough to deter aggression. Calls for strategic clarity are rising, but Japan's leaders still retreat to ambiguity after bold statements. The government walks a tightrope signaling resolve to China and the US while avoiding reckless commitments. This duality defines Japan's current stance: tough talk, cautious policy. The US-Japan alliance is the cornerstone of Japan's security, a partnership forged in the aftermath of World War II and strengthened over decades of shared interests and challenges. Today, this alliance is not just about defending Japan itself, but about maintaining stability across the entire Asia-Pacific region. In any scenario involving conflict over Taiwan, the alliance becomes central. Its decisions and actions could shape the future of the region. US military bases in Japan, especially those in Okinawa, would serve as vital hubs for American operations, providing logistical support, intelligence, and rapid deployment capabilities in the event of a Chinese attack on Taiwan. Japan would be drawn into the conflict from the very outset, regardless of its initial intentions, due to its geographic proximity and the presence of US forces on its soil. Tokyo faces a profound decision: whether to allow US combat operations to be launched from Japanese territory, and to what extent it should support those efforts militarily, logistically, or politically. The Japanese government must also consider how much direct support to provide, ranging from intelligence sharing and logistical aid, to potentially deploying its own self-defense forces. Supporting the US could risk open war with China, bringing the conflict to Japan's doorstep and threatening its people and economy. Yet, refusing to support the US could fracture the alliance, undermining decades of trust and cooperation and leaving Japan more isolated in a dangerous region. This strategic dilemma has led to intense joint planning, regular military exercises, and deepening coordination between the two countries' armed forces. Both nations have responded by strengthening their alliance, updating defense agreements, and reaffirming their commitment to regional security. Recent joint statements have explicitly emphasized the importance of peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, signaling to China and the world that Taiwan's security is a shared concern. The US continues to urge Japan to boost its defense spending and modernize its military capabilities, ensuring it can play a more active role in any potential crisis. Ultimately, the choices made in Tokyo, how far to go in supporting Taiwan, and at what risk, could determine the island's fate and the future of the US-Japan alliance itself. As the alliance faces its greatest test in decades, the world watches to see how these two powers will respond to the mounting challenge. The stakes have never been higher, and the decisions made now will echo across generations. China's response to Japan's tougher Taiwan rhetoric is swift and severe. Beijing sees any hint of Japanese intervention as a direct challenge to its sovereignty. After Prime Minister Takaichi's remarks, China lodged formal protests, summoned Japan's ambassador, and issued stern warnings. Economic pressure followed, with travel advisories and threats to Japan's tourism industry. China also increased Coast Guard activity near disputed islands, reminding Japan of its own vulnerabilities. Each escalation deepens mistrust and raises the risk of miscalculation in the region. Japan is quietly transforming its defense posture, shifting focus from the north to the southwest near Taiwan. The self-defense forces are modernizing, acquiring F-35s and retrofitting ships for aircraft operations. New bases and missile batteries now guard the Nansei Islands, creating a defensive bubble near Taiwan. Prime Minister Takaichi pushes to raise defense spending to 2% of GDP, breaking decades of restraint. Public support for a stronger military is growing, but the nation is split on defending Taiwan. Nearly half support intervention, nearly half oppose it. Any decision to fight for Taiwan would be politically perilous and deeply divisive. Will Japan defend Taiwan? The answer remains a cautious maybe. Japan's leaders talk tougher, its military is repositioning, and its alliance with the US is more focused than ever. The logic is clear: a Taiwan crisis threatens Japan's own security and economy. But moving from rhetoric to military action is a monumental leap. Japan's likely role would be supporting the US with logistics, intelligence, and base access, not leading the charge. Direct combat remains a last resort, facing huge legal and political hurdles. Japan's strategy is deterrence through ambiguity, hoping to raise the costs of aggression for China. For now, Japan signals resolve, but its ultimate commitment remains deliberately uncertain.